So I'm in Soho with a blindfold on, trusting a bloke to put something in my mouth, yeah?
Yep, that's how it goes around these parts.
Okay.
Did we bring up the subject of VAT?
Yeah, it should be reduced. VAT in hospitality, it sits above anywhere else in Europe.
Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
Open nice and wide. Here we go. Tom, welcome to Spooning with Mark. We are here to talk about this beauty, but we'll get to that because we need to just discuss a little bit of your food history first, if that's all right with you.
We might be here a while.
Well, we'll try and rattle through it. So you grew up in Gloucestershire.
Yeah.
Right.
Gloucester, city centre. Yeah.
Gloucester, city centre, boy through and through.
Yeah.
And, you single parent family for most of it, and you learnt to cook from an early age. But one of the things because obviously we send you this little questionnaire before you come on, and one of the ones that you said was this. So we're just going to see how you feel about this particular childhood. When I put that in front of you, what does that conjure up for you?
That's exactly. It's the sound and the smell of that when you crunch. That is a Saturday evening, sat in front of the television watching the Pink Panther. Yeah, the cartoon.
Oh
the
yeah.
cartoon
yeah.
Pink Panther, and we used to have hot rolls with corned beef from a tin.
Yeah, that's from a tin.
With English mustard. And
those tins. Hold on, I've got one of those somewhere.
Oh, the smell of that is amazing. It's magic, isn't it?
Here it is. So look, that tin. That tin, which is one of the more dangerous things you can have in a house. That tin. Because how many people have nearly taken a thumb off trying to open one of these? How good is that?
Got the proper key on it and everything. I love it. Oh, do you know what? That's a proper childhood memory, that.
When was the last time you ate one of those?
Well, I do quite like corned beef. I quite like making it. I quite like that process of the salt beef. I love the way that it sits really nicely, but actually having something out of a tin with English mustard with, I don't mean to be rude, but I don't know who made these, but cheap bread rolls, it's done really crispy and crunchy. That's exactly what it's supposed to be. That kind of, they're not bad. And the thing about the rolls that I used to have, it used to be a local bakery, and you don't get them very often anymore, do you? There's not like
a proper crusty roll.
A proper crusty roll, but it was a kind of, so it's early 80s. It's maybe even late 70s, and to the point where flour improver and stuff was going into bread. So it had gone beyond, like traditional bread that would go off after a day to bread that would start being around for a little bit longer, like these. And it was just, it was magical. I just remember it. It's just a lovely thing. That was Saturday night teas, that.
And have you ever kind of tried to reinterpret something like that within the restaurant on the menu to sort of, bring those nostalgic flavours to you, to your customer? Yeah,
kind of. Yeah, we look at things in retrospect, and there's loads of things that we always do. Like there's been a chicken dish that comes on and off the hand of flowers where it's been brined in beer and it's served with petit parle français and it's cooked in kind of like a malt glaze, and it's got this. But that to me is a retro refit of, and it's half a roast chicken, and it's half a roast chicken from the Burney Inns with peas that have been sat under the hot lamps for ages. But that was our special occasion once a year, going out for something to eat would be a Burney Inn. And that was, I suppose that was the first experience of dining out and eating out that was, I suppose, a pub stroke posh place, hospitality. They were always like quite old buildings, and it's not there anymore. But that kind of vibe, that feeling. So those sort of things that make you feel warm inside, the reminders of not just food, but hospitality in general. Yeah, we always try to replicate that. And then there's a flavour balance about this that works. It is so perfect.
Yeah, it's the simplicity of it.
Simplicity, there's texture. So there's crunch on the outside, then straight next, there's softness. There's that kind of protein meat that's got that cooked kind of, and it goes in cold or at room temperature, but the warmth of the roll softens it, or the fats in it begin to melt. And then you need something to cut through that, whether it's acidity or whether it's heat from English mustard. And this is where my love of English mustard comes from. I love it. So it's like the perfectly balanced sandwich. And it's the most simple thing. It's a tin of corned beef and a cheap roll with English mustard. So those flavour profiles, we always look for replicating in some form or other across menu.
Well, because it's that balance of fat. It's got everything. But it's one of those things. People think chefs would never eat like this, and it's how chefs eat.
Yeah, I mean, it is what we do, you know, and it is, and many of chefs, particularly my age, that come from backgrounds where, and you'll meet them, and most of us are the same. We come from backgrounds that aren't from any form of privilege. It isn't. We're not in kitchens because we learned to cook apple pie with our nan. We're in kitchens because it was an environment, a world that we were wrapped into. It was late at night, it was good fun, it was hard work, it's more of a graft, it's a trade that we've learned as opposed to being on a building site. It's just in a kitchen. You go, actually, from there, many of us will have backgrounds where food like this is prominent, but also like late at night food. You know, this is the sort of thing that you go, actually, that's what I'm going to eat. This is when you get in, you haven't got time.
Cheese on toast.
Exactly, yeah, it's exactly that. Cheese on toast, corned beef roll. It's the sort of thing that keeps you like sustained and going.
Or mid-service, the sugar sandwich to keep going.
Oh, I've never done a sugar sandwich.
Oh, sugar sandwich.
Oh, really?
Oh, that'll keep it going.
Well, I'll have to remember
about
that
an hour,
one.
and then you have the crash
Yeah.
afterwards.
Do you have butter in it?
Yeah, of course.
Loads of butter, loads of sugar.
Loads of butter, loads of sugar, white bread.
I've missed out on that one. I feel like I've missed out on something. I didn't go to France to train either, and there's two things there that I feel that I've missed out on in my culinary growing up and career. And one is going to France and training in Paris, and the other one is a sugar sandwich.
There we go. Maybe we'll get one for you later.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't go straight into cooking. You started out you went into acting first, which not a lot of people, and there is some phenomenal footage out of. You had quite the coiffure, especially in Miss Marple, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was set in. So it all kind of happened a bit by accident. So I left school at. I was the youngest in my year, so I left school. I was still 15 when I finished my GCSEs, and I didn't really have any idea what I was going to do. I was supposed to do a YTS scheme thing, and I was doing something, I think it was handiwork in the local school, and I just didn't bother going, and it wasn't, it was just not my thing. So between the ages of 16 and 18, my mum calls in my dossiers. I wasn't quite sure what to do. I was always being quite confident and comfortable with other people's kind of conversation and being in a room with people. And so my best mate, whose parents didn't drive, and my mum said, we took us to a youth theatre. So we went to a youth theatre over in Cheltenham. So we're from Gloucester, and we'd go there, and it was quite an interesting set. I mean, most people there were from like posh schools, like Cheltenham's Ladies College, and you know, and there was two boys from an estate in Gloucester, and it was like all of a sudden, it's like, I mean, for us it was amazing. As a 16-year-old, think this is the best, like, you know. And then an agent came to see somebody else in one of the shows, and then afterwards, like, said to me, I mean, I literally not been there very long, and said, would you want to sign up to the agency? I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, sure. I just say yes to everything. Why not? What's the worst thing can happen? I haven't really got any career plan. Why not see what happens? And then literally 2 weeks after that, I was filming this Christmas special in Miss Marple that was set just post-war. So anything that there's this hair and stuff. I mean, I was 17, I had hair. I was 16, 17 years old. So it's like, so then I did that, and then I played a couple of things as a school bully in two different things, funny enough. Then I played a thief.
Well, you're quite tall.
Yeah, and a big lad. I've always been a big lad, like I've always been. So I played, the Miss Marple thing, it was set in a Borstal. So I was a kid in a Borstal unit. Then I was a school bully twice. Then I was a thief. And then the last part that I played before I did anything else was I was in London, London's Burning, and I played, and when the titles go, my official title was Thug 1. So it was like, so it's kind of like, so that was, I mean, that was the point. But it wasn't really for me. I kind of realised that, like, it wasn't really my thing. It wasn't really, the world of acting isn't, do you know the weirdest thing about it? I love the arts. I love art. I love music. I love people who are expressive through performance. I like all of that. But the weird thing that I find about acting is that you go to work to pretend to be somebody else. Like in my head, I was like, I like being me. So when you're an artist and you do paintings and you do what, you're expressing a vision of something that's from an inner soul. And I know a lot of actors will say that, but they're becoming somebody else. And that's an expressive art form, and it's a skill set, and it's amazing. But for me, it wasn't a reflection of me. So it's just a bit weird.
But you found another art form. So you went to catering college at 18?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, 17, 18, I probably, walked in through the doors.
What drew you to that?
Well, actually, it's because I went and got a job. So I went and got a job at the local hotel washing up. So I needed money. So they said, we need a KP. So I started washing up. And I instantly loved the buzz, the space of the kitchen. And then it was a case of well, if I'm doing this, then maybe I'll go 2 days a week, 3 days a week to college. So I went to college, and then when college finished, I'd go and work in the evening, washing up, and then I got onto a bit of cooking, and the chef like put me onto maybe the veg section of the garnish, and then I'd be there at the weekends, and then before you know it, I just left college and just stayed at the hotel, and it was kind of like that movement from it just kind of morphed from washing up.
And then you moved to London.
Yeah.
Was that around 99, around then?
No, way before. 1992, 3. So
Right.
1973. I was born, so 1993, 93, 94.
But you ended up as sous chef for Gary Rhodes.
I did, yeah.
I mean, I always say about Gary, what I loved about Gary was how his hands moved around food. There was such a reverence in which the way he handled food. It was extraordinary. Did you enjoy working for him?
Yeah, I worked for Gary at Rhodes in the Square in Pimlico. So I came into London, I worked at the Capitol Hotel for about a year, and then I moved from the Capitol I went to Stephen Bull, so one of the first British chefs to win a Michelin star. He had a place in Blandford Street, and he had a place in, he opened St Martin's Lane, and I pretty much 2 weeks after opening, they were looking for staff, like obviously, like everyone does, and I went there, I got a job, stayed there, so close to opening, all the way through to closure, so like 3.5, 4 years later, when Stephen moved out of that space and moved to the country, and from there, the head chef, John, and myself, we went as head chef and sous chef team. John was head chef, and I was junior sous chef, went into work for Gary. That would have been 99, then 1999. And it was just brilliant. Like when Gary was there, like there was this like famous chef guy, and he talks really well. His love of food was outstanding. His, I think Gary's biggest skill set, and I'll always remember it, and I always remember speaking to a Michelin inspector over years, and they would talk about Gary, and they would say that his skill set is taking away, if there's no point in anything being on the plate, don't put it on there. The more things that are on the plate, the more you can get judged by. So actually, just get rid of it. And Gary's...
Would you have liked a corned beef roll?
Gary would have loved that.
Yeah.
Like if you think bread and butter pudding, one of Gary's biggest sellers, it's bread and butter pudding.
Yeah.
You know, Gary would have looked at that and gone, right, how do we make this? How do we take this to the next level? How do we make this exceptional? You know, and you look at it and you go, that's magic, but how do you improve it? Well, we'll make the corned beef ourselves, and we'll do the thing, and we'll look at the fat content, and maybe we'll put beef fat into the bread dough, or maybe we'll do, you know, you'd have taken it and taken, but you could have still served that on the plate and won a Michelin star, just like that, because it would have been magic. And that was the one thing. It's the biggest thing I took away from Gary, and probably one of the biggest influences on my career, particularly at the Hand of Flowers, of understanding the simplicity, you know, just get everything has a purpose and a reason, and don't overload it.
Don't overload it. So fast forward to about 32, you make what might have appeared like the rash decision to open your own restaurant.
Yeah.
Talk us through that, because by then you'd met your lovely wife, Beth.
Yeah. So my wife is an artist. At that point, she was working. She was head technician, or one of the head technicians for Sir Anthony Caro, who's a sculptor, who was working in Camden, and his work is phenomenal. Was phenomenal. He's no longer with us. And I met her, and it was really cool. It was brilliant to meet somebody who didn't care that I was working till 1 a.m. and I was doing like getting up again and go read it, because she had her own career and still has her own, very much her career path has gone and grown and is amazing. And you just go with that. We very much gelled together, but also been on our career paths. But the hardest thing about being an artist, I think for anybody that talks about it, is that it's very, very difficult, particularly when you're in the world of sculpture as well. When you work in bronze and marble, you can afford, you can't afford to buy the material or have the time off to get to the point when you can sell. So it's a very difficult world. It's a world that's done with passion and heart and soul. It's not one for making money. And actually, the people that make money out of art aren't normally the artists anyway. So it's kind of like...
But I mean, a lot of parallels between that and the standard of food that you started to want to produce under your own name.
Yeah, well, we came to the decision that we'd open somewhere for ourselves. I mean, I was looking at a head chef's position, and Beth was like, look, if we're going to go and you're going to go and do another, you're 30, 31, approaching 32 years old, if you're going to go and do those hours, we may as well do it for ourselves. So I was like, okay, so that was it. We did it. So we Would
you say she drove you? Because I mean, as I understand it, she proposed to you.
She did. She proposed to me, yeah, after about 6 to maybe 8 weeks. Like, yeah, she proposed to me. She's very driven. She's always worked. Her dad was a very successful businessman in the 80s, then lost all of his money in the late 80s when the recession hit. Tried very hard to make his money back again. He's done okay, did okay. He's a very driven man, and he comes with the potteries. They're from Stoke-on-Trent. It was a pottery business, so they've always worked for themselves. Beth's always worked for herself, even though she was working for Sir Anthony Caro. It was her work, her thing, her time. She's always been self-employed and self-driven. So that conversation was one like, okay, and there's that scary moment of being an employee, knowing how much you earn, which means you can pay how much for rent, and you know what you can, like all of those sort of things. The moment you jump off and go, right, we're going to do it, you've got no idea what you're doing. You're jumping off into the abyss and seeing what happens. You just got to believe in yourself and back yourself that the product is right and you'll get it okay.
But am I correct in thinking you opened 2005, within a year you had your first Michelin star? How difficult was that first year though?
First year was very, very hard. Like the Hand and Flowers is a small pub that seats 45 people. We were living above it. So, and I'd say living above it, it was 3 small rooms that are up there. Me and Beth were in one room with 2 dogs. My best mate was next door because he was the barman, and the room next to that was the office, and that was it. And it's, so it becomes your whole life. There's no escape route. There's nowhere else to go. Even if you were even if it was a day off, we used to close on a Monday, and then we got to the point of being 7 days very quickly because we realised we needed the revenue. But then 7 days a week, you live there. You're on it. You're in. That space is just there. So it becomes very. I suppose it can become quite suffocating. It can become quite full on. There's no escape route. There's nowhere else to go. So it was very, very, very difficult. And then it started turning. Winning that Michelin star made a difference. People were coming, and people were eating. People wanted to go out. It was really, really good. I think the hardest part, there's been a lot of hard parts over the last 18 and a half, 19 years. But 2008 was the first real learning curve, that first big recession that hit. And that was very, very difficult.
And then 2012, you get the second, which is unheard of in a pub. It's a pub with 2 Michelin stars, which kind of threw everybody. And then that kind of raised your profile and then TV comes along, and suddenly you're a celebrity chef.
Well, there were a weird few years there because 2010, 2011, 2012 I won Great British Menu. I went on Great British Menu, I won it. I won the main course 2 years in a row. And then the following January, when it was October, the guide changed briefly at that point. It came out in October. We won 2 Michelin stars. So in the space of like 2.5 years, we went from a very busy Michelin-starred pub that was full for lunch and mostly and dinner.
To how difficult it is to get into your restaurant.
Yeah. It's a lot easier now. Things have calmed down a lot now, and I think the restaurant world has calmed down a lot. There was a period where everybody was eating it, and the world is broader now. I think many people go and eat great pizzas, great burgers, it's not just great food. Like people will go for really good stuff, and I think that's spread the eating public. So it is different. It is different.
Well, you've also spread across Marlow as well. So you've now got, was it 3 restaurants?
3 spaces in Marlow, yeah.
All of which I've been lucky enough to eat in, and can highly recommend you go to any of them.
Thank you.
They are brilliant. And you've got another Michelin star at the Coach.
Yeah.
And that, I love the experience there, because that, for me, I like to go in there, I sit at the bar, and I want to look at the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because that's what excites me.
Yeah, it's great. It took us 10 years, though, before we opened it. The Hand and Flower had been open 10 years before we thought we could expand and open the second one. And that's just because it's organic growth. It's about people. It's about human beings that are part of that team. And that team started off with the few people that I mentioned there, to the point now where there's about 250 across group. And many of them have been with us for 10, 15 years, if not, they've been a part of that whole growth process. And then underneath them, you've got people that are 8 and 9 years. And then underneath them, you've got 4 and 5 years. And that's almost unheard of in hospitality. And we're very, very proud and pleased with that. That it's just one of those...
But the business is now huge. Because you've got the catering company as well. So, what are you hitting it now at employees?
Nearly 250.
Yeah. That's a lot of people to be responsible for, and I think we all appreciate how difficult the last few years have been for our respective industries. I make pizza, they're good pizzas, but I make pizza.
Yeah.
But you've got so many different moving parts, and finding staff and and trying to find your margin. Because a lot of people will go, I won't eat Tom Kerridge, he's too expensive.
Yeah, I mean, they will. I mean, but they don't. That's because there's a lack of understanding of what goes in to the hard work of it. If you're in hospitality and your business makes a 10% EBITDA, you're doing really well. Like you're doing amazing. You found the magic sweet spot, and 10% is nothing. Like it really isn't. And so most hospitality businesses are not making that. Most are doing 5 to 8. Some are even doing just break even. And there's going to be a lot that are losing right now that are just going to hope we can just kind of financially bumble along, losing over a couple of years.
Do you think there's more pain to come?
I do, yeah. Right now, I do think there's more pain to come. I don't think those mortgage prices that have gone up, I don't think they're actually hitting home yet. I think this is going to be a very difficult winter. Yeah, I definitely do.
And have you seen a drop off in spend per head within the restaurants and that sort of thing?
Yeah, spend per head is probably sitting around about the same. The number of guests coming through the door is definitely down. So it's probably across board, I would say 20% down.
I mean, that's very telling for someone with your reputation and pedigree, that you're seeing a drop off in actual people through the door. It's very telling about where the industry is.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from I suppose external forces. I think people have less disposable income in their pocket, and then what happens is it doesn't matter whether it's pizzas or 2 Michelin star spaces. The costs have gone up. The cost of raw ingredients and logistics and manufacturing, and for everybody, it's all gone up.
I know my business. It doesn't matter which way I string it. Best case scenario, I make 50% less than I used to.
Yeah.
Do we bring up the subject of VAT?
Yeah, it should be reduced.
Yeah.
100% VAT in hospitality. It sits above anywhere else in Europe. You've got Italy, Spain, you've got Germany, you've got France, you've got these super efficient countries that respect hospitality as an industry, as a profession, as a trade, that operate between 8 and 12% VAT. Here it's 20%. Now that 20% is massive. It's a huge amount. If you think whatever something costs on a menu, whether it is a pizza or a steak, it's like those things, 20% disappears straight away to the government. Now, if that was reduced to 10%, that 10% would make a huge difference in the ability for many businesses to survive, breathing space right now. But actually, it's future investment. It's not something that would go into mine in your pocket. It's something that you would go, people constantly talk about the industry being underfunded, wages are low. It is a lower wage industry, but it's not a lower skilled one. No. But those wages can have an increase. If those countries that I mentioned in the first place, hospitality is seen as a profession. It's seen as a space that people go into. In this industry, in our country, it's still seen as a transient, floating space that people have not a huge amount of respect for. The moment you could reinvest, pay complete proper professional wages, particularly at top end, you would be attracting more and more stuff, more investment into apprenticeship schemes, you could help create the industry as a much bigger, better, and more special place, just in the eyes of people from the outside.
Yeah, and what I find extraordinary, and you will probably agree, is given the size of the industry, that there is zero representation at government level is extraordinary.
I find it ludicrous. There's 3 million people that operate within hospitality. There's another 2 million on top of that are affected by it, whether it's agriculture or fisheries, whether it's people that have some form of production or logistics, whether it's travel or tourism. I mean, it's huge. It's a huge amount. And the hospitality is split across 2 different ministries, so that's why we had all those ludicrous conversations during pandemic about shutting at 10 o'clock, and even if you're open, you've got to have a Scotch egg. I mean, like this ridiculous. It was just the most. It's because they weren't talking to people like myself and you, or the guys with the coffee shops, or a 5-star hotel. It's just like there's no representation. So you need a minister of hospitality, but that minister, we all know if you're a minister, it doesn't mean that you have a skill set from that particular ministry that you represent. They move about. You need a civil service that understands.
Once you step away from the stove, Tom, is it a future role? MP for Marlow. And Minister for Hospitality.
There's two. There's
I'd
one.
vote.
Well, there's a big issue there. I think one is the minister. I would be quite happily within the civil service and represent and be a part of helping to build a ministry for hospitality. For a minister, you have to be part of a political party, and to be part of the political party that I like, it's very unlikely they get voted into Marlow.
Now listen, we are here to feed you
Yes.
a bit, but there is a little bit of twist. So I'm gonna move your beloved corned beef
I'm looking
out
at them.
the way.
They smell so good.
We
as
can
well.
wrap
I
those
love
up.
it.
You can
Okay,
take
good.
those home.
Brilliant.
All right. And we've got to that point in proceedings where I'm going to have to ask you to put this on.
Blindfold.
It's a trust exercise
Okay.
here, Tom.
I like this.
So pop that on. And I've got a little something under the cloche here.
I mean, this is like a proper blindfold, isn't it?
Oh,
This
yeah.
is like,
No,
What
we can't
happened-
afford for you to see anything. Go on,
I mean,
pull
this
that
is
down
like
a
a
bit. You're cheating a
proper-
bit there, Tom.
I mean, it's like,
So
yeah, but like it.
this is
I'm quite impressed with this.
This is the bit where we get to do the spoons. All right. And I'm going to feed you.
Okay.
So don't worry.
This is all a bit weird.
So trust me, Tom. I won't do you any harm.
So I'm in Soho, right, with a blindfold on, trusting a bloke to put something in my mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it goes around these parts.
Okay.
Right. So it's sort of here comes the train, and open wide. There we go. Nice mouthful of that for you. Tell me what you're tasting, what you're experiencing there.
That's a big portion. Mint.
Well,
First and foremost, minty, herby lamb, slow cooked.
anything else familiar about it to you?
Some form of starch, is there potatoey, boulangerie like potato, crispy outer bit of cooked lamb. I can definitely taste, and mint sauce. It's delicious.
Right. You can take the blindfold off.
Did I get it right?
You did get it right.
Look at that.
Not only did you get it right, it's one of the recipes out of your new book.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
So that's the slow cooked lamb with the Indian spices, that one.
That's lovely.
Has he done,
minty,
has chef done a good job of interpreting that dish for you?
I love slow cooked lamb. It's just the best. I mean, things like shoulders and legs of lamb that have been cooked for ages on the bone, they develop so much flavour, and I absolutely love it. I'm a big fan of lamb, actually.
I mean,
but lamb that's well done. I'm not into like super pink lamb. It's got to have...
I'm obsessed by my smoker that I've got at home,
Yeah.
and the slow cooking in that and all that sort of thing. It's a real pleasurable way to cook that as well, because it takes a bit of patience, and you know what's coming.
Got to relax, haven't you?
But that is one of the recipes out of this book, which is great. Now, in my house, we have a little tradition, because I'm very proud of my deep fat fryer.
Right, okay.
Right? I've got a big. I keep it outside in a little sort of lean-to next to the house, because you don't want a fryer going indoors.
No.
But we have deep fry Fridays in my house.
Right,
so
okay.
it's not every day of the week, but me and my son and my family, we always kind of do stuff. So we tried out, which were excellent, were the cheese and Branston pickle.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Croquettes.
They're little croquettes.
I mean, we tried out different sizes of them, but that's just because it's going back to that classic childhood sort of thing. And you've got to use the chunky. You've got to use the chunky Branston.
It's like a ploughman's lunch, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a ploughman's lunch.
Yeah, just straight
deep
away.
fried.
Deep fried. But what in life doesn't benefit from being deep fried?
Nothing. No, I mean, everything deep fried is great. Like fruit, I mean, amazing, like beautiful fritters. I mean, I've not done like anything full English like deep fried. That might be quite interesting. Or battered sausage,
My son is convinced. He follows this guy on TikTok, and he wants to deep fry a Wagyu steak. He said he's seen this guy do it. It looks phenomenal. I said, I feel that feels like a terrible thing to do to a Wagyu steak.
No, we've done a number of times where we've deep fry steaks, and it works for a lot of reasons, because it's quite high and instant heat, and it's all round, and it's circular heat, so it works really quite well. No, I would say that's a really good and interesting way of cooking something.
Are you saying I'm wrong and my son's right?
I'm saying it's an interesting way that might be worth looking at. I'm not saying we don't cook our steaks like that. Sometimes we've done it in beef dripping, which would be really nice. So if you deep fried Wagyu steak in beef dripping.
Well, I shall say we're going to do it this weekend, because Tom says it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. But you must be proud of this book, because it's a beautiful looking tome, and the inspiration is really your roots as a restaurateur, no?
Yeah, well, it's 10 years since the first book came out. And the first book was proper pub food. And it's kind of a nod to, I suppose, how 10 years of pub kitchens have grown and adapted over that period of time, where normal food has gone from, you know, whether it was a bit St. Johnny 10 years ago, everything was kind of like bone marrow on toast and steak tartares and lots of pies, and all of those sort of things are in there. But actually, there's nowhere else in the world, no other food institution, no other place where you could go and eat in a pub where you might have Chinese style pork spare ribs as a starter, followed by a Sri Lankan prawn curry, followed by sticky toffee pudding, and it'd be completely normal. And you just go, it's great. Oh yeah, I had a lovely tea. Thank you very much. You like no other restaurant. You couldn't eat like that in Italy, France, Spain. You couldn't eat like that in Japan. It's just like, and it's magical. And that's what makes our food world brilliant. And it's all done. If you think of great pubs, they hone in on beautiful produce, and it's just the style and the methodology of cooking. We're a Magpie Nation. We take all sorts of bits and bobs. We're so culturally rich and diverse here that it's so lovely that food styles and flavours get represented in what gets wrapped up in sometimes, you know, a building from the 1700s. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fantastic, I think.
The whole thing's slightly incongruous, but like you say, it has changed. The development of the pub culture in this country has changed the way people eat and how they approach food, and pushed cooks to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's things like that with the media, whether it's podcasts, whether it's magazines or television or radio, but we all talk about food, and people, the great British public, have got into food and they enjoy it. And the more they want it, the more they question it, the more they look at it, it drives us as chefs and restaurateurs to be better. I mean, you created a pizza space that wanted to be, I'm going to do pizza, but I'm going to do a really good pizza. There's pizza and then there's pizza, and there's steak and there's sandwiches and there's steak and there's sandwiches. It's like, how do you drive that? Because you want to be a market leader, because the great British public are going, where's the best pizza? Yeah. Where can I get? And by them questioning, it's this lovely circle that's driven by us and the media, but it's mostly driven by the consumer and the guest wanting better, and that's better for everybody. It's better for the whole, you know, everybody that's involved in the food world.
Well, I think you've encapsulated them, but there are some amazing recipes in that. I mean, I can't wait to cook more out of it. Do you have a personal favourite?
I quite like, there's a pork with romesco sauce, there's a lamb with madras gravy. I kind of like the idea that we're going these beautiful British pork, amazing lamb rumps that are done, but then actually we're using global food that just sits
Spanish
within,
influence, Indian influence,
and it's not weird if we were out having lunch and you had that and I had that and you just go, neither of us would question it. Like, but if we went somewhere and it was a sushi bar and I started having lamb rump with madras, you'd be like, this is weird. Like it works in a pub, and I love that.
You don't want the other spoon of that.
No, I'm good, because I think
there is more to come.
Okay,
there
great.
Is more to come.
Brilliant.
Now, obviously, with your growing empire, you do a few miles in the car, and I know you love your cars and that kind of thing, but you have admitted to doing something which I find extraordinary, which is...
They're the best.
You eat these.
Yeah, they're lush. How do you find that extraordinary? Like, look at them. I tell you who else finds it extraordinary, right? So I'm best friend, really, really good mates with Claude Bosley, 2 Michelin star chef.
So I texted him.
Did you?
I said, I've got Tom on. Have you got any stories? He goes, yes, I have loads, but they're private.
Yeah. Did he didn't tell you about me trying to get him to convince him to eat a pepperoni? Honestly, so right, we were coming back. We were on a trip. We were coming back down the motorway about 2 weeks ago. 2 of us pulled in at the garage. We hadn't had lunch. We grabbed something, filled a car of petrol. I got an iced coffee, which was quite funny because he opened it and spurted all over his shirt. That was good. But because I mostly eat protein, so I try, like, I go, because it keeps, like, it's what I prefer. It's like, I don't feel tired. I try to avoid sugars because it gives you up and down rushes and sleepiness. And carbohydrates, I just find it, I find it easier to keep going eating protein. So pork scratchings and a pepperami. Claude had neither of them. An amazing 2 Michelin star chef that's been in this country for 25 years, right? Still not lost the accent.
What are you talking about?
Exactly. And he's like, so he ate the pork scratchings, absolutely loved it. He opened the pepperami, right? And it was a green one. I bought him a green one and a red one, right? And he opened the pepperami. First of all, the eyes of shock when he saw what it was like.
Which is in a condom.
Yeah, what the is this? He's like, okay, yeah, but now you got to eat it. And he was like, I am not eating that. So he refused to eat it. He didn't eat it. Right. I promise him it's one of Great Britain's culinary experiences that he's massively missing out on. So, do you know,
I've got to admit,
I tried educating a Frenchman.
I slightly fear them. I might be slightly with Claude. Now listen, don't go spoiling your palate now with that. Take a glass, because you're going to need to put the blindfold on again.
You won't spoil your palate with that. That's a dream. That's the perfect appetizer.
Right, blindfold on again. We've got your final spoon.
I can't believe you don't like pepperoni.
It's enough to drive you balmy. Right, final one's coming in now.
Hold on.
Get a glass of water. There's your water. Have a sip of that. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
Open nice and wide. Here we go. Now, what are you getting this time?
Chocolate mousse.
Yeah.
Delicious. And then the really wishy-washy flavour of pears. And it's like, don't get me wrong, right? Can I take this off?
Yeah.
I love chocolate mousse, and I love pears. I just never get it together. I just don't get it. It's like, why would you wouldn't put apples and chocolate together? Like, I kind of get orange with it, but you know when people try to make chocolate clever, why are we doing this? And I know this is it's a classic French dish, and I should be like, oh, it's amazing, chocolate and pear. It's not. It's ridiculous. I think it's two things. I think it's like a tarte tatin that went wrong. You know, it was a mistake that they went, okay, serve it that way. I think someone put something else with something else and went, yeah, it's fine, that's what we meant to do. Because there's no way that those two flavours in my head go together. They just, chocolate mousse, magic. That's
our whole remit is to try and challenge opinions and change opinions.
Okay.
We failed miserably with you.
It just loses. Do you know what I mean? The only way that the pear can sing in that, right? Pears work beautifully when they're poached with spicing or flavours, and then they're allowed to be the pear, the ingredient, and it's beautiful. And I absolutely love pears. I think they're fantastic. But the moment it goes with chocolate, if you're just using chocolate as a texture, then it's like fluffy and soft. But what's the point of it? You want chocolate to be. If you're going to spend money on really beautiful milk or dark chocolate, and you go to the effort of creating something like that, you want that to be the thing that sings. Mix them together. I just don't get it. It's not offensive. It's just pointless.
So you won't be having the second spoon?
No, but I am going to finish this bit of chocolate mousse, and then I might go back for the other half of pepperoni.
Listen, Tom, it's been a pleasure having you on. The book is fantastic. I wish you every success with it, and your continued success with the restaurants. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So, Tom, coming up next week, we've got Matt Tebbett on.
Yeah.
You got any good Matt Tebbett stories? Because let's face it, he's a bit of a rogue.
He is a bit of a rogue. He loves a beer. He comes and presents Pub in the Park for us a few times. And he does enjoy hanging with the guests in the VIP tent, having a couple of lagers. That would be fair to say. He's great, Matt. He always brings brilliant energy. He's always comes across as someone who's absolutely loving life and what he does. And he's great. So, yeah, he loves a beer at a festival.
Great big spoonful of love to Tom Kerridge for taking part today. His book Pub Kitchen is out to buy now. Next week, I'm joined by Saturday Kitchen legend Matt Tebbett. And you can follow us at Spooning with Mark Wogan across all the social media channels, because this is an audio and visual presentation. You can get us on YouTube too.